My name is Dr. Sanjeev Sahni. I work for OP Jindal Global University. I am a Principal Director of Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences. I have 30 years of experience in government, corporation and now in academia. Basically, I am a psychologist and I have been entrusted to cover the topic on leadership. What is leadership? Leadership is an effective instrument by which a manager can establish a feeling of mutual objectives and unity in a group, thereby ensuring maximum efficiency of the group. To achieve this, a manager has to have special skills in understanding impersonal and group behavior, establishing interaction and communication, and promoting cooperation. The quality of leadership determines the success or failure of the organizations. What is the definition of leadership? In last 100 years, we have come across over 100 definitions. So I would like to summarize what exactly we can think about the leadership. It is defined here as the effort to influence the behavior of individuals or group members in order to accomplish organizational, individual or personal goals. It is an essential component of organizational effectiveness. A leader has to possess one or more forms of powers to orient others to the desired direction, which could be charisma, a position of authority, expert knowledge, and power of reward and punishment. The powers of authority, reward, and punishment are primary powers which add strength to leadership quality and influence. There are powers which are delegated to a manager by the organization. Expert knowledge and charisma power are personal, intrinsic to the leader, and add to his strength or her strength. To be effective, a manager should have a good understanding of leadership, of motivating factors, of how people think and act, and should adopt a personal and active attitude towards designated goals. More recently, the concept of super leader has been developed. This is a new concept. A super leader is one who leads others to lead themselves. Super leadership inspires, stimulates, and supports self-leadership in subordinates. It recognizes self-influence as a powerful opportunity for achieving excellence rather than as a threat to external control and authority. Strategies for self-leadership includes 1. Effective behavior and action. 2. Strategies focused on behavior. 3. Cognitive focused effective thinking and feeling. Here what we are talking about accepted leadership roles. Most of time we are confused between the leadership and management. What is the difference between a leader and a management? Now what managers are supposed to do in an organization? They do planning, they do organization, they do controlling, and leaders, they develop visions. They align people for a common cause. They motivate and inspire people and they have followers. Now, what I think there are 4 factors of leadership. The first, as a leader. Now, you must have an honest understanding of who you are, what you know, and what you can do. To be successful, you have to convince your followers, not your superiors, that you are worthy of being followed. The second component in this is followers. You must know your people. The fundamental starting point is having a good understanding of human nature, such as needs, emotions, and motivation. The third component in this is communication. The non-verbal communication is leading. For example, let me give you a few examples on this. When you set example that communicates to people, to your own people, that you would not ask them to perform anything that you would not be willing to do. Bad communication harm the relation between the leader and employee. So, one of the most important factor is communication. The third component is situation. We must use our judgment to decide the best course of action and the leadership style needed for each situation. What we do in one situation will not always work in another. Now, let me talk about characteristics of leaders. There are many characteristics. From the viewpoint of a follower, the characteristics of leaders are, the first thing is organization. In this, subordinates like leaders who plan and are well organized. They should follow the chain of command in issuing instructions. They should also delegate authority as necessary. The second could be fearlessness. Leaders should not be afraid for their positions. They should not be afraid of their superiors, the toughness of a job, colleagues, or the honest mistakes of their staff. 3. Respect for the work of others. Leaders should recognize that the work of their teammates is as important as their own work and deserves equal recognition. While they should be excited about their own work, leaders should simultaneously cultivate the right climate so that their teammates can also be enthused about their work. Then comes satisfaction. Leaders should have a feeling of satisfaction and gratification. When a teammate achieves something which they themselves thought would be impossible, then we need to appreciate them. Then comes promotion of the interests of subordinates. If leaders believe that their subordinates are right, they should fight for them no matter what the odds and the situation is. Frankness, another characteristics. Leaders should talk to subordinates directly and inform and explain without losing tempers or creating stress. They should be candid and criticize constructively. Another important factor, respect for the individual, which we have already mentioned. Subordinates prefer leaders who respect an individual's identity and experience. Leaders should never show bias. Another important characteristic of a leader is knowledge. Subordinates want leaders who are knowledgeable, and now most of the answers they are able to have it. At the same time, leaders should admit ignorance when they do not know the answer to a problem, and be willing to seek help from other sources. They should also be willing to learn from others. In fact, they should never stop learning. It is more important for a leader that they should keep on learning for the benefit of the followers. Another thing is predictability. This is an important characteristic of a leader. Leaders should be predictable. usually the same all the time and not enigmatic. It's not that, he is so unpredictable that people are not come to know about the emotions of a leader. So they have to have a constant behavior to deal with the situations. Then comes tolerance. Leaders should be tolerant of small mistakes which teammates may occasionally make. In fact, there is a very important video where our former president, Abdul Kalam, talked about that whenever there is a mistake by a subordinate, the leader should take a credit of it. Whenever our subordinate does a very good job, then the responsibility or the credit should be given to your followers. Another characteristic is well established, which is known as understanding. Subordinates should perceive their leaders to be humane and understanding, and should not be afraid to go to them if they have committed a foolish mistake, ashamed or are proud and satisfied. Leaders should create a confidence and should be neither hasty nor rude. Honesty and transparency is another characteristics. Subordinates want leaders who are transparent in their dealings and cannot be bribed by anyone. That message has to go. Leaders should be able to see through perfidious design in any form and should cultivate strong moral fiber and earn the respect of their teammates. Leaders should always be committed to good moral principles. Accessibility is another important characteristics. Leaders should be easily approachable whenever needed, and subordinates should be able to get away from their leaders when their business is settled. Providing opportunity is another role of a leader. Leaders should be willing to provide new opportunities and give chance for work, even if it is something new and the subordinate may not have experienced that work before. Guidance is another factor which comes from leaders. Leaders should lead by training others. They should be able to show their subordinates how to do a job. But in doing so, they must not show off. Subordinates like people who grow out of their own job to become leaders. Leaders should try to match people and jobs. Willingness to listen is another characteristic. Leaders should be willing to listen when a subordinate has something to say, but should be able to end the conversation gracefully if necessary. Genuineness is a very, very essential quality of a leader. Subordinates should believe that their leaders sincerely wants them to succeed and will be proud of them when they do. Discretion. Leaders should respect the privacy of their teammates. They should not admonish them in the presence of others, nor gossip about them. At the same time, leaders should give credit to all and acclaim their people publicly when appropriate. Informed leaders are probably the best leader. Information is considered as a power. So leaders should be well informed about what is happening around them. They should not give credence to gossip. Grace, another characteristics. Leaders should neither denigrate nor undermine a teammate or for any reason. Authority. Leaders should have an authority to mete out rewards and punishment as necessary. People orientation is another characteristics of a leader. Leaders should, like people, be cooperative and inspire their teammates. Positive personality, this also leads to acceptance. Subordinates like leaders who are active, humble, gracious, thoughtful, and confident. Leaders should be firm but fair to everybody, and, if necessary, should be able to compromise but should not placate. Good communication, as I said, communication is a very important characteristic. Subordinates like to be informed of the actions of their leaders and the reasons for them. Good leaders have to be good communicators and should not cover themselves in an unnecessary veil of secrecy. There are various types of leadership theories. Western world has given different theories. Eastern world has different theories. But what kind of theories are really working well, that also we will describe at the later point, but it is important to understand the theories which are available in this world about leadership. The first theory talks about trait approach. The traditional concept is that effective leaders have personality traits which distinguish them from the common herd. Leadership effectiveness has been found to be associated with age, height, intelligence, academic achievements, judgmental ability, and insight. However, none of these have been correlated with leadership in all situations. I would like to be absolutely honest that these things are not that which is existing anymore as such. The willingness to lead transcends all these traits. The trait approach has been popular but controversial. Stockdale was the person in 1974 talked about, identified several general factors which differentiate leaders from non-leaders with reference to the trait theory. He talked about capacity refers to problem solving capabilities, making judgments and working hard. Achievements relate to accomplishments such as academic record, knowledge and sports. Responsibility refers to dependability, reliability, self-drive, perseverance, aggressiveness and self-confidence. Participation and involvement mean highly developed social interaction, popularity, swift adaptation to changing situations, and easier cooperation compared to non-leaders. The another factor could be socioeconomic status in this. That is, effective leaders usually belongs to higher socioeconomic classes. This is what I'm talking about, a trait theory at the moment. The second approach in leadership comes on theory-wise, behavioral approach. The behavioral approach to leadership is based on the concept of how a leader behaves and what actually is done to achieve leadership effectiveness. Depending on participation and sharing in decision making, leaders have been classified as following leaders. I'm sure all of us, we are fully aware about these things which has been studied by various people way back even in 1939. The first one is autocratic leaders, are those ones who exclude subordinates from the process of decision making. They assign work without consulting subordinates or knowing their inclinations and desires. Second one is democratic or participative leaders. In fact, we have grown up studying these leadership theories. Participative leaders are effective and more productive because they consult subordinates on various matters and include them in the process of decision making. Tasks are assigned on the basis of interests and preferences of subordinates. Laissez-faire leaders have little or no self-confidence in their leadership ability, do not set goals for the group, and do not enhance group interaction and communication. This is the third type of leadership. In fact, the laissez-faire type of leader does not supervise. Constantly, the group has to make many on-the-job decisions. I would like to quote one study which happened in Ohio State University, focused on task and social behavior of leaders, and identified initiating structure and consideration as two important determinants of successful leadership behavior. The studies observed the effect of various leadership styles on group performance and job satisfaction. This happened way back in 1974. Initiating structure is the extent to which leader conceptualizes the role of both the leader and the subordinates towards goal achievements. It relates to organizational structure, communication channels, and evaluation of group output. Consideration is the degree to which job relationships are associated with mutual trust, faith, respect, friendship, support from subordinates, and informal communication. On the basis of these dimensions, 4 leadership styles have been identified, namely low structure, low consideration, low structure, high consideration, high structure, high consideration, and high structure, low consideration. The high structure, high consideration style of leadership has been found to be the most effective style. The third type of theory, which is relatively new, is called theory X and theory Y. There are 2 basic classes of people: those who want to lead and take responsibility, that is, the leaders and managers, and those who want to be directed and do not want to take responsibilities. On this basis, in 1960, McGregor classified leadership as either an authoritarian style, which is theory X, or a more egalitarian style, which is theory Y. According to theory X, management does not trust employees with important decisions. They are altogether excluded from the decision-making process. Management assumes complete responsibility for organizing, planning, making important decisions, directing and motivating people. If management does not act, employee will do little or nothing. Implementing a theory Y approach, a manager nurtures an environment which is favorable to the growth of both organization and subordinates. The theory recognizes that employees have the capability to be high performers, to develop and assume responsibility, and are self-motivated. Therefore, management only has to ensure the appropriate working conditions to bring out all these abilities. With the right kind of leadership, employees will not be inactive or resistive. On the contrary, managers can trust employees and assign responsibility for taking important decisions to lower levels. The overall effect is to make work inherently satisfying to the employees. Now, the fourth type of theory is managerial grid and approach. This is pretty famous these days and is being applied by various organizations. The managerial grid approach utilizes with modifications the consideration and initiating structured dimensions of leadership. These dimensions are directed towards people and production respectively. Blake and Moulton was the person in 1969 that talked about this theory. Using this approach, 5 types of leadership styles have been identified. The first one, the improvised or extempore style, which considers neither people nor production. It is an ineffective style of leadership. Second, the country club styles of leadership is oriented towards people but has the least concern about production. As you know, in the various clubs, people just meet and they enjoy. So there is not much concern about production. Third, automatic type of leadership is oriented towards production. It has most concern for production and least concern for people. This is most of the industries may be using it. Fourth, the middle of the road type of leader maintains a balance between production and people. In fact, I am a particularly advocate of this particular theory. 5, the team type of leadership style influences group members into a vibrant, effective, problem-solving and decision-making team, which is essential for organization effectiveness. This is the most effective style of leadership since it has concern for both production and people. Now, the fifth theory is the Likert theory. According to Likert, optimal performance can only be achieved if attention is paid to the human aspects of subordinates, problems, and behavioral aspects such as motivating forces, communication processes, interaction influence, processes decision-making processes, goal setting processes, control processes, and performance characteristics. Based on these considerations, leadership style could be either job-centered or employee-centered, and then further classified as follows. So, job-centered, what is job-centered? Exploitive, authoritative type of leadership, which is similar to the high structure, low consideration type discussed earlier. It is manipulative and results in low productivity. Behavioral authoritative style of leadership, which is slight improvement on the exploitive authoritative type of leadership, it produces average results. The second is, and this is employee-centered. An employee-centered leadership style can either be consultative or participative. A consultative style of leadership is ideal. Although control is basically with top management, it is shared with managers and middle and the lower level. Overall, productivity is good. A participative group style maximizes the quantity and the quality of performance and is thus an ideal approach. The sixth theory is a situational approach theory. I'm a fan of this theory personally. A situational approach to leadership is based on the premise that environmental factors affect leaders' style and effectiveness. Consequently, effective and successful leadership depends on the relationship between organizational situations and leadership styles. Fiedler's situational theory identifies effective leadership styles under changing situations. These can be either relationship motivated or task motivated. What is the difference between leadership, relationship motivated or task motivated? Relationship motivated leadership style relies on a good personal relations and group participation to accomplish the task. Leaders with this style perform most effectively in modest control situations which present mixed problems related to task, group members, and authority. The relationship motivated leaders get cooperation from the group by being sensitive, diplomatic, and tactful. The another one is task motivated leaders prefer clear guidelines and standardized or patterned work methods to complete successfully the tasks they have accepted. They have strong task orientation and perform best in high control or low control situations. The high control situations are those where leaders get support from group members and the tasks are clearly specified. In addition, leaders have high authority, which enables them to use their powers or reward and punishment appropriately. Low control situations, the opposite of high control situations, are relatively difficult, challenging, and straining. Tannenbaum and Schmidt's situation theory contends that the most effective leadership style depends on forces in the leader, the follower, and the situation. The leader chooses his or her leadership style based on the interactions and prevalence of these forces for optimizing organizational productivity. According to Fiedler, the correct style of leadership to adopt depends on the favorableness of the situation. So, high favorable situation could be make leader's position strong. A high unfavorable situation makes a leader position is weak. The seventh theory talks about transformational leadership, transactional leadership, creative leaderships. So, I am going to talk about the transformational leadership first. They make change happen in self, others, groups, and organizations. Charisma is a special leadership style commonly associated with transformational leadership. It is extremely powerful and very difficult to teach because it's a transformational. The second in this is a transactional leadership. This type of leadership emphasizes on getting things done within the umbrella of the status quo in opposition to transformational leadership. They adopt by the book approach, that is, person works within the rules. It is commonly seen in large bureaucratic organizations. Then comes creative leadership. It is the ability to uniquely inspire people to generate shared innovative responses and solutions to complex and readily changing situations. Then comes corrective leadership, which empowers staff to facilitate collaboration and synergism. It is motivating staff to work with and through other people instead of bowing to authoritativism. Another one is change leadership. They endorse alterations. It is beyond thinking about individuals or individual organization, single problems or single solutions. Change leadership is about rethinking systems to introduce change on parts of the whole and their relationship to one another. Then comes intelligence leadership. To navigate the future of embracing ambiguity and reframing problems as opportunities, it is a proactive stance in taking their organizations into uncharted territory. Then comes multicultural leadership. It fosters team and individual effectiveness. It drives for innovation by leveraging multicultural differences. Teams work harder in an atmosphere of understanding and mutual respect. Then comes pedagogical leadership. Paradigm shift from leader-teacher centered orientation to an interactive, connective, organizational system using a democratic learning and communication style. It is an alternative to instructional leadership by enabling the learning and intellectual growth of those led. We also talk about these things on servant leadership, a practical philosophy focusing on people who choose to serve first and then lead as a way of expanding service. Servant leaders are servants first, with the object of making sure that other people's highest priority needs are being served. Leaders put the needs of their followers first. These leaders are rare in business. Another type of leadership is bridging leadership, fostering synergy and reinforcing behavior and motivation through the use of communication to create climate of trust and confidence. Projection of confidence on the face of a difficult challenge. The another leadership is purposeful leadership. Leader and the community share a common purpose to develop or provide the drive, authority, and commitment to undertake these projects. There are other varying leadership styles, but three factors influences the choice of leadership styles. One, the manager's personal background. What personality, what knowledge, what values, ethics, and experiences does the manager have? What does he or she think will work? Second could be staff being supervised. Staff are individuals with different personalities and backgrounds. The leadership style used will vary depending upon the individual staff and what he or she will respond to. Third, the organization. The traditions, values, philosophy, and concerns of the organization influence how to manage acts. Determining the best leadership styles, I just want to tell you 4 factors in this. Should leader be more task or relationship oriented? Leaders have dominant style, one they use in a wide variety of situations. 3, No one best style leader must adjust their leadership style to the situation as well as to the people being led, which is more onto the situational leadership. The fourth, many different aspects to being a great leader, a role requiring one of the play many different leadership styles to be successful. How I am going to conclude it? My summary about the leadership, I'll just take another 3 minutes. Effective leadership styles when the behavior of the leader takes into account the required and preferred behaviors in any situation. Success probably depends on the qualities of the leader, the leadership style which they use, situational factors and the characteristics of the group. Power is essential to leadership performance. Models can help managers select a leadership style to use in a given context. Thank you.